What if I told you that the life you think you're living isn't just one life, but a series of lives, each punctuated by deaths you haven't even realized you've experienced? This might sound like a science fiction movie or a philosophical riddle, but what if it's the key to understanding your entire existence and unlocking hidden potential you didn't know you possessed? The implications of this idea are enormous, because it challenges the very core of what we understand about life, death, and who we are. What if the fear that has been holding you back, the fear of death itself, is simply a misunderstanding of a fundamental process of transformation? What if, instead of being an ending, death was in fact a new beginning disguised as a perceived end? This isn't about physical death as we commonly understand it, but about the constant cycles of transformation we undergo on emotional, psychological, and spiritual levels. Think of it like a snake shedding its skin, leaving behind an old layer to reveal a newer, more evolved version of itself. You are in a perpetual state of shedding what no longer serves you. Just as the phoenix rises from ashes, life is in a constant process of dying to old states of being and rebirthing new ones. This isn't something to be feared, but a fundamental aspect of reality and a source of immense power. The seasons change, the moon cycles, life itself moves in rhythms of birth, growth, decay, and renewal. And so do we, not just once but many times. We are all part of this cosmic dance, moving through cycles of experience that lead us to our most authentic version of ourselves. The purpose of this video is to reveal these hidden truths, to shed light on what is happening beneath the surface of our everyday experiences, and to empower you to not just understand this concept, but utilize it to create a life of infinite potential. What if what you've been taught about life and death was just one perspective, a single thread in a tapestry so vast that it's nearly impossible to fathom its enormity? What if the conventional view, the one that is so often spoken about in mainstream media, is incomplete at best, and designed to keep you in a state of fear and confusion at worst? There is a hidden knowledge that has been explored for thousands of years by ancient wisdom traditions, and what if we could access this ancient knowledge and incorporate it into a modern understanding of our existence? These traditions understood life not as a linear progression from birth to death, but as a series of cyclical events, where endings are simply gateways into new phases of being. They spoke of rebirth, reincarnation, and the eternal dance of consciousness. What if these aren't just mystical ideas, but practical insights into the true nature of our experience? This journey is about peeling back the layers of who you believe you are, like peeling an onion, where each layer you shed reveals a deeper truth about your essence. We are going to explore the idea of ego death, not as something to fear, but as a profound process of transformation, the shedding of a false self that allows you to come closer to your authentic being. But these deaths aren't just about the ego. They're about the death of limiting beliefs, perspectives, and the very identity that you think is fixed and unchangeable. The truth is, time isn't linear, that past deaths are not fixed points, but living aspects of your consciousness that are always available to you, and the idea that your current perceptions are merely a filter. These are the foundations of what we are going to be discussing in this video. We will be weaving together these key knowledge threads, and you will begin to see the pattern forming. We are more than our identities, jobs, beliefs, and perceptions. We are something much greater, and it's time to remember what that is. If you've already died multiple times, what does that mean about the you think you are? If everything is cyclical, what implications does this have for our understanding of reality? And if what we believe about ourselves is merely a construct, then what is the true self we have been looking for? Are we designed to shed layers of our identity, beliefs, and perceptions? Is this why you often feel like you're no longer the person you once were? These deaths aren't random occurrences, but part of a larger pattern that has been hidden in plain sight. And as we begin to explore it more, it may become more and more clear why so many people don't understand it. You've been programmed into a limited view of yourself. And what if these deaths are simply a way for you to remove that programming? What if the shedding process of old selves is part of an intentional cycle? We are not just passive recipients of life, but active participants in a constant process of self-creation, and it's time you realize your potential. Next, we're going to explore exactly how this process works, and the practical tools and techniques you can use to navigate these transformative deaths, and step into the full power of who you truly are, rather than who you've been conditioned to be. So if these deaths aren't what we thought they were, if they're not endings, but rather powerful transitions, how can we understand them in the context of our everyday experiences, in the day-to-day life that we're living? Let's dive deeper into what these deaths truly mean. It's time to challenge the way you perceive time itself, and to start seeing it not as a straight line, but as something far more complex. What if all moments, past, present, and future, existed simultaneously, like frames in a film reel all existing at once? If we perceive time as linear, we see the past as fixed and gone. But what if those past versions of ourselves are not actually gone, but exist as different layers of our consciousness, each holding unique wisdom and lessons? Think of it like a spiral, constantly moving forward, yet revisiting the same points again and again, but always at a higher level. How does this change your perception of your life and experiences? It means that those deaths you may have experienced, those moments of intense emotion or change, aren't lost, but are still accessible. You can tap into those past versions of yourself, learn from them, and integrate their experiences into your present moment. Think of a past trauma or an old relationship. You can access the feelings of those moments at any time, because they exist within you always in a nonlinear fashion. They are a part of the tapestry that makes up who you are. They inform the present moment, but they don't have to dictate it. Now, let's shift from this idea of time and move into the realm of our emotional and psychological experiences, because these realms also have significant deaths that greatly impact our lives. We often equate death with the end of physical life, but what about those moments when we experience the death of a relationship, the loss of a job, or the shattering of a long-held belief? These are not merely setbacks, but emotional and psychological deaths, marking a significant shift in our identity. These are the moments where a layer of the onion is being stripped away. Consider the example of a person who has built their entire identity around a specific career, and then, suddenly, that job disappears. It can feel like their whole world has fallen apart. This isn't just about losing a job, it's about the death of the identity that was built upon that career. Or what about the end of a significant relationship, where the connection and the role you played within it no longer exists? This can be incredibly painful, because it's the death of the relationship, as well as the you that existed within it. These moments, while painful, are also powerful opportunities for transformation. They force us to confront who we are without these external structures, prompting us to change and evolve. These deaths create space for a new self to emerge, like a seed that must break its shell to grow into a plant, or a caterpillar that must die to become a butterfly. This brings us back to the cyclical nature of existence, the rhythm of death and rebirth that is all around us. What we see as endings are in fact the beginnings of something new, an opportunity for growth and evolution. When we see death, not as an end, but as a powerful part of the larger cycle, we can start to move into a position of power in our own lives. Consider the phoenix, an archetype for transformation, and how it rises from the ashes of its old form, renewed and stronger, and how this is a metaphor for our lives. Each death we experience is an opportunity to be reborn, to shed old limitations, and move into a new version of ourselves. Think about the seasons. Autumn is the death of summer, and winter is the death of autumn, but from those deaths comes spring and summer again. These cycles are not meant to be feared, but to be understood and even embraced, because they are essential to the process of life itself. The ending of anything can be viewed as either a tragedy or an empowerment, and the perspective we take creates our reality. Are you seeing these moments as something that is happening to you, or as something you are actively engaging with in your own life? This small shift in perspective can have massive implications. So, let's start to shift your perception of these moments and understand that they are in fact a stripping away of limiting beliefs and old identities. These deaths are actually incredibly important as they create space for something new to emerge. What if your fear of death was just a misunderstanding? What if it's not something to be avoided, but a natural process that you've been undergoing multiple times already in your life, without fully understanding what was happening? What if these deaths are the key to your evolution and are a necessary part of the cycle of life? What if your ability to let go is the key to your power? So many of us are desperately clinging to the old versions of ourselves, without understanding that those old versions need to die in order for us to grow into our full potential. Think of it like a garden that needs to be pruned in order for new life to grow. Now we're going to move deeper into the idea of ego death and what it means to shed our false identity to find our true self. We're about to go on a journey of self-discovery that will change the way you see yourself forever. If these layers of self are being stripped away and our old identities are dying, then what is left? What happens when we go even deeper and start to shed the very self we have identified with for so long? This is where we move into the concept of ego death, which, despite its seemingly frightening name, is not about the literal death of the ego, but about its transformation. Ego death is a process of dissolving the false self, which is composed of our conditioning, our attachments, and the various roles that we play to reveal the authentic self that exists beyond that programming. It's about letting go of the identities, the beliefs, and the stories we've created about who we are, and allowing what is underneath to come to the surface. Our ego is part of the onion that we have been discussing. It's a layer that we have to peel away in order to reach the core. Think about it. How much of your identity is based upon your job, your relationships, and your possessions? What happens when those things are taken away? Do you disappear? No. You are still there, but now you have an opportunity to come into contact with who you truly are beyond those things. Attachment to these ideas is what creates suffering. So letting go of the attachment is what will bring you freedom. The process of ego death is not something to be feared. It's a necessary part of the cycle, much like shedding the skin of the snake. It is a shedding of the layers of our conditioning to reveal the true self that exists underneath. This authentic self is the being that exists beyond the roles we play, the masks we wear, and the stories we tell ourselves. This true self isn't built on achievements, external validation, or even our life experiences. It is simply the awareness that is witnessing life. This true self isn't something we need to create. It is something that we need to uncover, as we are already this true self, and always have been. Consider someone who has undergone a transformative experience, such as a spiritual awakening or a deep meditation. They often report a profound sense of peace, connection, and clarity that comes from this shedding of the false self. These are the experiences that come about when we start to let go of the need to identify with the ego and discover the infinite being that exists beyond. This is the being that has access to unlimited potential because it isn't limited by the belief systems and identities of the ego. It's not about erasing the ego completely, but about shifting it into its proper place as a tool rather than the master. So how do we actively participate in this process? How do we begin to shed these layers of the false self? This is where practical tools come into play, such as self-reflection, mindfulness, and meditation. Mindfulness is about observing your thoughts and feelings without judgment, creating space between the observer and the observed. This allows you to start seeing your thoughts and feelings as simply thoughts and feelings, and not as who you are. Meditation practices, such as breath work and body scans, can bring you into the present moment, helping you to detach from the endless chatter of the mind. Imagine being able to observe your thoughts floating by like clouds in the sky, rather than being swept away by them like a leaf in the wind. These practices are not about escaping from reality, but about diving deeper into it and developing an awareness of our inner world and the layers of conditioning that exist within it. Detachment from thoughts is a vital part of the process, because you are not your thoughts, you are the observer of those thoughts. These practices allow you to begin to move away from the identity that is based upon thoughts and into the identity that is based on pure awareness. But what happens if you don't recognize these deaths? What if you remain attached to the false self, to the stories and the roles you've created? This is where the stakes get even higher. If you fail to recognize these necessary cycles of death and rebirth, you remain trapped in patterns of limitation, repeating the same mistakes, and living a life that feels unfulfilling because it isn't aligned with your authentic self. If you stay attached to the old roles you play, the beliefs you hold, and the stories you tell, then you remain trapped within the small container of the ego, rather than expanding out into the infinite being that you truly are. What are you missing out on by remaining trapped? By clinging to the false self, you're essentially denying yourself the chance to live fully, to express your authentic truth, and to tap into your innate potential. It's like being stuck in a video game, going around in the same loop, not realizing that there's a whole world to explore beyond the confines of the game. This is the power of realizing that these deaths aren't something to be avoided, but are opportunities for you to break the loop and transcend into something new. The question now becomes, are you willing to break free of the loop and move into your own power? Now that we have explored what happens when you are attached to the false self, let's explore how our belief systems act as another layer of that false self. These belief systems, whether consciously or unconsciously held, act like filters on our perception, shaping the very reality that we experience. These beliefs aren't just random ideas. They create the framework of what we think is possible and what we think isn't possible. Think of societal norms, for example. The belief that you have to get a certain job, live in a certain area, or follow a certain set of rules. These create limiting beliefs about what you are capable of, creating limitations on your own potential. These systems create a matrix within our minds, and the purpose of these deaths are to dismantle that matrix. What if you could access a greater version of yourself beyond those societal beliefs? What would it look like to be able to live outside of the matrix you have built around you? It's time for you to start questioning the validity of your current belief systems and to examine where they came from. Are they truly yours, or were they given to you by someone else? Are they serving you, or are they holding you back? The good news is that, just like we can shed old identities, we can also actively choose to shed these limiting belief systems. The death of limiting beliefs is like upgrading an old computer system. When you remove the outdated programming, you open yourself up to new possibilities and perspectives. Imagine that the programming of your mind was designed to show you only a small percentage of the world, and that by removing those limitations, you can access more of it. This is why these deaths are so important, because they are stripping away the false to reveal the true, expanding your awareness, and opening you up to more of the infinite potential that exists within you. Think about common societal beliefs, such as you can't make money doing what you love, or you must suffer to succeed. How much of your life has been affected by these beliefs? What possibilities would open up if you actively decided to reject those beliefs? This doesn't mean ignoring challenges or acting without responsibility. It simply means that your limitations are self-created and that you have the power to remove them. These beliefs are simply filters, and they can be changed, but the important thing is that you must choose to change them. This process of shedding limiting beliefs is directly related to the idea of shedding the false self, which we just discussed. They are both layers of the onion that must be stripped away in order to get to the core. These beliefs are a part of the false self, and the process of shedding them is a vital part of your transformation. And every time a limiting belief is shed, it's a symbolic death, an ending of an old perspective, making way for new ways of seeing. These deaths are all part of the same pattern of removing the unessential to reveal the truth of your being. Every time you transform an old belief, you are creating a new version of yourself, which is always a more expanded version of yourself, because it is a version that is not limited by the constraints of old programming. The continuous shedding and transformation is designed to lead you toward your full potential, making you limitless in what you can be and what you can achieve. This cycle is a gift, not a curse, and understanding it is the key. So where do we go from here? It is not enough to understand these concepts on an intellectual level. You have to begin to actively engage with them in your own life. What beliefs are you holding on to? Where did they come from? And more importantly, are they serving you or holding you back? What is stopping you from living your truth? These are the questions that you must start asking yourself, because until you start to actively engage in this process of self-discovery, then you will remain stuck in the loop. We need to take an active role, as these deaths are not something that just happen to us, but something we participate in and guide ourselves through. The first step in this process is awareness. The awareness of the cycles of death and rebirth, the awareness of the false self, and the awareness of the limiting beliefs that filter your reality. Awareness is like a flashlight in the dark, allowing you to see the patterns that have been hidden. And when you begin to see these patterns, you can begin to change them. You must begin to see life not as a linear journey, but as a series of cycles of death and rebirth, a process that is always happening on many different levels. The interconnectedness of everything is part of this process. Every ending makes way for a new beginning, every cycle is interconnected, and every death makes way for rebirth. The more you understand these patterns, the more you realize that you aren't a victim of them, but an active participant in them. This is where your power comes from, the power to actively engage with the cycles, rather than passively being carried along by them. The practices that we will discuss in the next section will help you to do exactly that, showing you how to engage with the process of self-discovery instead of just observing it. In our next section, we will explore practical spiritual practices and techniques that you can use to consciously navigate these deaths and to embrace the path of self-discovery. These practices, such as meditation and visualizations, will help you to deepen your understanding of these concepts and to step into the full power of who you truly are, so prepare yourself to move from theory into practice. So, if these cycles of death and rebirth are always occurring, if it's not just the big, life-altering events that mark these transitions, but something that's happening continuously, how does this manifest in the day-to-day fabric of our lives? Let's look at some concrete examples, because these deaths are not always obvious. We often think of death as something that is only relevant in the realm of relationships ending or job losses. But what about those smaller, less obvious shifts that occur all the time? Have you ever noticed a sudden change in your interests, like an old hobby you were once passionate about, that suddenly no longer holds your attention? It feels dead to you. This is a mini-death, the end of an old version of you, making way for something new to emerge. Or what about those times when your social circles shift and the people you once spent a lot of time with, you no longer connect with? This isn't just about drifting apart, it's a kind of death of an old social dynamic, an end to a specific era of your life. Even a major shift in your daily routines can be a kind of death. Perhaps you used to wake up at 6 a.m. every day, and then one day it feels wrong. A part of you knows it's time to change. These are all small deaths that are constantly shaping you, whether you realize it or not. The truth is that these transitions are occurring all the time, and often without us consciously recognizing them. Have you ever thought that maybe you've been the one ending old aspects of yourself without realizing it? Can you begin to see these small deaths as part of your natural cycle? And if they are always happening, can these transitions be intentional? Can you take control of the deaths you experience? This idea of intentionality is where the power truly lies. It's not just about recognizing the deaths that happen to you, but also about consciously choosing to end aspects of your life that no longer serve you. It's not just about accepting change, but actively creating it. What if you could decide when it was time to move on from an old situation? What if you could consciously choose to let go of the things holding you back? Think about a toxic relationship you may be in, one that is depleting you, and causing you distress. The ending of this relationship, if done consciously, can be a powerful form of intentional death. You're not just ending a relationship, you're ending a version of yourself that existed within that relationship. Or what about a job you've been working in for years, one that you know is not fulfilling you and is draining your energy? Actively deciding to leave that job is another intentional death. You're not just quitting a job, you're actively choosing to leave behind an identity that was tied to that job and opening space for something new to come into your life. Even choosing to end negative self-talk, that constant internal critic that undermines you, is an act of intentional death. You are ending the old thought patterns and actively choosing to create a new internal dialogue. When you start to see these deaths as a choice, a tool for transformation, you move into a position of power, and the chaos starts to feel like something you can engage with rather than something that is happening to you. So, what in your life feels like it is ready for an ending? Can you become an active participant in your own deaths? Now, let's circle back to the onion metaphor. Think of each of these examples we just discussed as a layer of that onion being peeled away, revealing more of your authentic self. Every time you intentionally end an old pattern, like leaving a toxic relationship, you're peeling away the outer layers, the layers that have been built up by others, and moving closer to the core of who you truly are. Imagine that the limiting beliefs are the first few layers of the onion. They are the things you have taken on from society, your family and friends. When you break free of those belief systems, it's like peeling away the first layer. Each intentional death is not a move away from yourself, but a move closer to your core. Think of negative self-talk as another layer, this layer that tells you that you are not good enough, and that when you consciously decide to end those thought patterns, you're stripping away yet another layer of the onion. These layers of the onion are the false self, the you that has been built from the outside in, and every death is moving you to the core, to your authentic being. The closer you get to your core, the more powerful you become. So, are you ready to start peeling away the layers and move into the core of who you are? Each death, no matter how small, contributes to this process of self-discovery, allowing you to gradually become more aligned with your true nature. What will you choose to peel away? This brings us back to the cyclical pattern, the constant dance of death and rebirth. These intentional deaths aren't just endings, they are also minor births. When you intentionally leave behind the old versions of yourself, you create the space for new versions to emerge, and this is a continuous cycle. Think of a snake shedding its skin. It's a discarding of the old to allow the new to grow. Or consider the butterfly emerging from a cocoon. The old form dies, making way for something more beautiful to emerge. Your life is no different, and the deaths that you experience are the same, a shedding of the old to allow the new to grow. Each time you intentionally choose to end a thought pattern, a belief, a relationship, a job, you're creating space for something new to emerge. You can't fill a full cup, and these deaths create space in your cup, and when you make space, you can then begin to fill that space with more of your true authentic self. So how can we actively engage in this cycle? How can we use these deaths as a tool for self-discovery? Because, as we can see, they are not something to be feared, but rather something to be engaged with, and when you do this, you move into a place of power. What tools can you use to move through these cycles consciously? Now, let's move into some practical techniques that you can use to become more aware of the cycles you are experiencing, and to start participating in them consciously. The first step in this process is self-reflection, and it's about actively looking at your life to identify the areas that are ready for a death or transformation. This isn't about beating yourself up or becoming overwhelmed, but rather about developing a clear understanding of your inner world. One practical tool you can use is journaling. Start by asking yourself specific questions, such as, what aspects of my life do I feel resistance toward? Or what identities or roles no longer feel aligned? These questions are designed to shine a light on the areas that are ready for change. Or you could ask, what situations feel draining or unfulfilling? using the answers as a guide to where your energy is being directed. You could even ask, what beliefs am I holding on to that don't feel aligned to my current self? Don't censor yourself. Allow the words to flow onto the page and see what is revealed to you. Use this as a tool for self-exploration, and by becoming more aware of the areas that are ready for transformation, you can start to actively engage with the process. Remember that self-reflection is not about judgment, it's about awareness, and awareness is the first step to change. What can you reveal to yourself? Beyond self-reflection, another practical technique is developing awareness through daily mindfulness. This doesn't have to be a complex practice. It can be as simple as taking a few moments each day to connect with your inner state and learning to observe your own thoughts. Imagine traffic on a busy street. The thoughts are like the cars, and the feelings are like the road, and you're standing on the side of the road, observing them without being swept into the traffic. This is the essence of mindfulness, and when you observe your thoughts, instead of identifying with them, you start to create a separation. A simple exercise that you can do is to bring your attention to your breath and notice the sensations in your body. When you notice your mind wandering, just gently bring your attention back to your breath. This is how you build the muscle of awareness. Or you can bring your awareness to your body and notice any areas of tension or any sensations in the body without judgment, simply observing. This practice allows you to move from being the doer of life to being the observer of life. And when you observe life, you start to see patterns that you may have been previously unaware of. These small practices, when done daily, can greatly enhance your ability to recognize the cycles you're going through and bring you into the present moment. Can you bring more mindfulness into your daily life? Next, we can move into intention setting, a powerful tool that can help you consciously navigate these transformative cycles. Intention setting is not about wishing or hoping for change. It's about actively choosing the direction you want to move in. When you formulate a clear intention, you're essentially giving your subconscious a directive, aligning your energy with your desired outcome. Start by identifying what you want to create, and then form a clear statement, such as, I intend to release the old beliefs that do not serve me, or I intend to move away from this toxic relationship. The key here is to use language that is clear, concise, and focused on the outcome, and not the problem. You can also add affirmations such as, I intend to create a life that is aligned with my true self to direct your energy toward a positive outcome. It's about stating what you want to manifest in your life, rather than focusing on what you don't want. The intention is the seed, and you are the one who is planting it. When you start using intention in this way, you will begin to take control of the direction of your life. Have you begun to see how this cycle works? Finally, it's also vital to have tools to process the emotional upheaval that often comes with these transitions, because change can be difficult, and it's important to create safe spaces for your feelings to move through you. It's common to feel grief, anger, sadness, and fear when old versions of yourself are dying, but remember that these feelings are part of the cycle. If you resist them, they will become stagnant. A helpful technique is to create a safe space in your imagination, a place where you can go to feel your feelings without judgment. This could be a beach, a forest, or anywhere that feels calming and nurturing. Imagine being there now, using all your senses to engage with it and notice the feelings that come up. Another technique is emotional release. When you feel emotions arise, allow them to move through your body without suppressing them. This may look like dancing, shaking, or making sounds. The key is to allow your feelings to move through you, because emotions are energy in motion, and if they aren't moving, they will cause stagnation. These tools allow you to navigate the turbulent waters of change, knowing that the cycle will always bring you back to balance. What safe spaces will you create for yourself? What feelings will you allow to move? Now that we have covered practical ways of engaging with the deaths in your life, let's reframe this idea of death as something negative and instead look at it from a perspective of growth. What if these deaths were actually opportunities for exponential growth? a chance to become more aligned with who you truly are. It's so easy to see challenges in our life as something negative, but what if it was actually a sign that you were ready to expand? Think of people you admire. Many of them have gone through significant challenges, and it was through those challenges that they found the strength, resilience, and wisdom that they are known for. Consider the example of a person who lost everything and had to completely rebuild their life. While painful, that experience gave them the opportunity to create a life that was more aligned to their true purpose, and not just a life of repetition. These deaths are opportunities to become stronger, wiser, and more aligned to your purpose, and can be a chance to finally become the person you have always dreamed of being. Can you shift your perspective and see these challenging times as an opportunity to expand? Actively navigating these deaths is the path towards authenticity and the path to living a life aligned with your true purpose. Every time you release an old belief, an old identity, or an old pattern, you are creating more space for your authentic self to shine through. These deaths are not about endings, they are about becoming more fully you. Imagine a person who has spent their entire life trying to conform to the expectations of others, and then one day they decide to shed those aspects of themselves and to start living according to their own values. This is the journey to authenticity, and it's also a journey of personal power. When you move into your authentic self, you move out of the realm of limitation and into the realm of infinite potential. This is why these deaths are essential to the cycle of life. They create the space to move toward your true self. So are you ready to begin the journey to discover who you truly are? The more you lean into these cycles, the more you become who you were always meant to be. When you start to actively participate in these cycles of death and rebirth, you're reclaiming your personal power from the perceived chaos of life. You move from a passive observer to a conscious creator of your own experience, and this is where your true power lies. Instead of seeing life as something that is happening to you, you move into a place where life is happening through you. And when you understand the nature of these cycles, you are no longer at the mercy of them. Think of a person who has always felt like a victim of their life circumstances, and now they realize that they can actively engage with life, that they can consciously choose their direction, that they can take control of their experience. This is a powerful shift in perception that allows you to become the author of your own story. You can write new chapters, shed the old ones, and create a life that truly reflects your deepest desires. And when you start to actively participate in your own cycles, you realize that there is nothing to fear and everything to gain. So, can you now start to see that this isn't chaos, it's actually your power? Let's bring this all together. The cycle of death and rebirth is a continuous and natural part of existence. Every ending, every death, creates space for new beginnings, new opportunities, and new perspectives. And every time you intentionally shed an aspect of your old self, you make space for a new version of yourself to emerge. This is how you move through life. Each cycle takes you to new heights, and each cycle brings you closer to your true potential. This is not just a theory, it's a fundamental aspect of your existence. Think of the phoenix rising from the ashes, or the cycle of the seasons. These cycles are constantly at work in your life, and when you embrace them, you move into a position of flow. When you understand this, you move from resistance into acceptance, and from being a victim of circumstance to being the conscious creator of your experience. So, will you start to embrace the natural flow of death and rebirth? But what if you resist this process? What if you remain attached to old versions of yourself? If you resist these cycles, if you hold on to the past, if you refuse to let go, you will find yourself trapped in a cycle of stagnation, repeating the same patterns over and over again. You will be like a plant that has outgrown its part, with no room to expand or grow, bound by self-imposed limitations. You can't force a plant to grow in a pot that is too small, and in the same way you can't force yourself to grow when you are attached to old versions of self. If you do not engage with the deaths, you remain stuck, running the same program, with no new insights and no new awareness. This doesn't mean that you should resist the challenges of life. It means you must engage with them so that you can evolve and transform instead of being held back by them. Are you willing to risk your own potential? When you cling to limiting beliefs and false identities, you're not just staying in the same place, you are actually reinforcing a cycle of suffering and restriction, limiting your own potential and personal power. If you refuse to release the belief that you're not good enough, or the belief that you can't achieve your dreams, then you will create situations that confirm that belief. You will create relationships that reinforce your limitations, jobs that reinforce your fears, and a life that is ultimately unfulfilling. This is the matrix that we spoke about previously. When you resist the deaths, you are essentially choosing to remain stuck in the matrix, and the matrix always seeks to confirm its own existence. Remember the cycles of life. Death and rebirth are designed to move you towards the authentic self, and resistance to this cycle keeps you within the bounds of the ego. So, what are you choosing to reinforce in your life? Can you see how your limiting beliefs are holding you back? By resisting the call to transform, you're not only limiting your potential, you're also missing out on opportunities for authentic experiences and deeper connections. The irony is that we often resist change in the name of safety. But what if that safety is what is actually preventing us from moving forward? The truth is that the life we desire is often on the other side of fear, and by remaining stuck in the old versions of ourselves, we limit our ability to move beyond our fears. You are missing opportunities to connect deeply with yourself, to live a life that is authentic, and to move beyond your self-imposed limitations. Think of the person who has stayed in a dead-end job for fear of failure, and they miss the opportunity to explore their true passion. They are the one holding themselves back by resisting the change. Each moment of resistance is a missed opportunity for expansion. So what opportunities are you missing out on by clinging to the old? So, what is the potential cost of inaction? What are you missing out on by remaining attached to your old self? What will it cost you if you continue to live your life based on old beliefs, old identities, and old fears? When you avoid the deaths, you may feel safe for a moment, but the stagnation that will inevitably set in will ultimately be more painful. By avoiding this process, you will remain unfulfilled, and you run the risk of never accessing the full potential that lies within you. The more you resist, the more you will suffer, the more you will stay in the same loop. This is your call to action. What will you do with this information? Are you ready to move forward, or are you ready to remain stagnant? Now that we have covered what happens when you resist these cycles, let's re-emphasize that conscious intention and self-awareness are the crucial first steps in consciously navigating these transformative phases. The journaling, mindfulness, and intention-setting techniques are the foundation upon which you build a more empowered existence. By practicing intention, you are consciously choosing your transformations rather than waiting for them to occur randomly. And by practicing self-awareness, you begin to understand yourself more fully. You become the driver of your experience rather than a passive passenger, and by moving into this position of power, you can start to create the life you desire. How will you use these tools moving forward? These practical tools are the starting point for a much deeper exploration. The practices we have discussed are the foundation upon which you can build a much deeper understanding of the cycles of death and rebirth and the cycles of your life. The spiritual practices, which we are going to explore in the next section, will expand upon these ideas and bring you into a much deeper understanding of your own power. You have to learn to walk before you can run, and these practices, the self-reflection, the mindfulness, and the intention setting, are how you learn to walk. These tools will prepare you for deeper spiritual practices, such as meditation, visualization, and energy work, which are designed to bring you to a much more profound understanding of yourself. In the next section, we are going to take all of this information and discover how to truly unlock your inner power. We will be moving into specific spiritual techniques that will allow you to deepen your understanding of these cycles and help you reclaim your true self. Get ready to step out of the matrix and into your power, because the journey is just beginning. Before you move on to the next part, take some time to reflect on what we covered and see what is revealed to you. Now that you've begun to explore the practical aspects of these cycles, it's time to move into the realm of spiritual practices, tools that will not only deepen your understanding, but also empower you to engage with these transformations consciously. And what better place to start than with meditation, a practice that is often misunderstood as simply a way to relax, but in reality, it's a powerful tool for self-discovery and for shedding the false self that we have been discussing. Think of your mind as a pond, and the surface of that pond is choppy with the waves of your thoughts and your emotions. Meditation is about stilling that surface, creating a clear mirror in which you can see yourself without distortion. This clear mirror allows you to observe your thoughts without getting caught up in them, creating a space where you can see your true nature without the interference of the mind. It's not about stopping your thoughts, because that's impossible, but about observing them as they arise and realizing that you are not your thoughts. The thoughts are simply the cars on the street, and you are the observer, watching them go by. A simple sitting meditation can illustrate this. Find a comfortable position, close your eyes gently, and bring your awareness to your breath. Notice the rise and fall of your chest or abdomen, and as thoughts arise, simply acknowledge them without judgment, and gently bring your attention back to your breath. This act of observing, this act of non-engagement, is how you start to create space, and it is in this space, this void, that the old aspects of self can die peacefully. It's like watching a leaf fall from a tree. It detaches naturally, allowing the tree to move into a new season, and in the same way, the aspects of self that are ready to fall away will, when observed without resistance. This practice is a safe way to explore the parts of yourself that are ready to die, allowing you to witness your own transformation with clarity and grace. So, are you ready to look into that clear mirror and discover who you really are? Building upon this foundation of self-observation, we now move into the power of visualization, a technique that allows you to consciously create the next version of yourself and actively engage with the cycles of rebirth. Visualization is not about wishful thinking, it's about using the power of your imagination to plant the seeds of your future self, and it's a way to take intentional control of the deaths you experience. You can visualize a specific version of yourself, one that embodies the qualities you aspire to, and this is the future you that is ready to be born. Think about the image of an architect planning a building. The architect doesn't just start building, they first visualize the entire structure in their mind. And in the same way, you can start to visualize the future version of you, to build from the inside out. Take a few moments to close your eyes and imagine yourself as you desire to be. Picture the way you walk, the way you speak, and the way you interact with others, using all your senses to engage with this future self. What are you wearing? Where are you? What are you doing? Imagine the feelings of confidence, joy, and fulfillment that come with this new identity, and allow yourself to feel these feelings as if they are already present. This isn't a fantasy. This is a blueprint, a template for your future that you are actively creating. By engaging in this practice, you are not only visualizing your future self, you are also intentionally directing the death of the old self, making space for a new and improved version to emerge. You are becoming the architect of your own life, consciously designing your own rebirth. What new version of yourself will you begin to create? Beyond the realms of the mind, we now move into the realm of the body and explore how energy work and body awareness can facilitate the release of old emotional patterns that are attached to past deaths. Our bodies are storehouses of our experiences, and stagnant energy can accumulate when emotions are suppressed or ignored. This energy is the ghost of the past, the memory of old identities and beliefs that are ready to be released. Even simply bringing awareness to your body can activate the flow of energy. Perhaps you notice tension in your shoulders or a tightness in your chest. These are areas where energy is likely stuck. And when you feel this tension, ask yourself if this tension could be related to old beliefs or past experiences that are ready to die? And what message might this tension be trying to tell you? When you consciously engage with the tension, you are bringing awareness to it, and this alone allows the energy to move. Grounding exercises are also a practical way to release stagnant energy and restore the natural flow of life force, as our connection to the earth can help to dissipate unwanted energy. You can do this by walking barefoot on the grass, connecting to nature and feeling the earth beneath your feet, using this as a way to release tension. Or try gentle movements like stretching or dancing to facilitate the flow of energy through your body. This isn't about pushing or forcing. It's about allowing the energy to move naturally, like a river flowing to the ocean. And with every movement, the stuck energy is released. And with every release, you make space for a new version of yourself to come forward. This is how you release the stuck beliefs and the stuck identities that are keeping you from your true potential, allowing a new version of yourself to emerge. So, can you begin to feel the energy within you and allow it to flow? And so, these spiritual practices are not just isolated techniques. They are interconnected tools that help you actively engage with the cycle of death and rebirth. These practices create space in your life for something new to emerge. They allow you to be an active participant in your own transformation. Remember the metaphor of the seed, and that in order to grow, the seed has to break through the surface of the soil. In the same way, you too must break through the surface. You must die to old ways of being to allow new ways of being to grow. You have to engage with the challenges of life and move through them, and these practices allow you to do this consciously. The meditation, visualization, and energy work are like different tools in a gardener's toolkit, each serving a specific purpose in the growth process. Meditation allows you to observe the soil, visualization allows you to plant the seed, and energy work facilitates the flow of life-giving nutrients. By engaging with these practices, you are not just passively accepting change, you are actively cultivating a garden of your own transformation. You are consciously engaging with the cycle. You are moving from being a victim of change to being the conscious creator of change. So are you ready to start actively participating in your cycles of death and rebirth? And what will you cultivate within yourself? Now, as we move deeper into the process of self-discovery, it's essential that we confront the hidden aspects of ourselves, the parts we often try to ignore or suppress. This is what we call the shadow self, the repository of unacknowledged aspects of our identity. These shadow aspects often manifest as limiting beliefs, unresolved traumas, and parts of self that we have rejected. The shadow is the false self in its rawest form, and it is something that needs to be integrated to move into the light of our true selves. Imagine a person who has suppressed their anger for years, constantly trying to be agreeable, but this suppressed anger doesn't just disappear, it becomes a shadow, a hidden force that influences their behavior. This anger may manifest as passive aggressiveness, irritability, or even physical ailments. It's a part of them that is trying to get their attention. The shadow is not inherently bad. It's simply a part of ourselves that we have not fully acknowledged or integrated, and in order for true transformation to occur, we must bring these shadows into the light. Think of a room that has been in darkness for a long time. You can't see what is in the room, and when you finally turn on the lights, everything is revealed. The same is true for the shadow, and the light of awareness is how you begin to bring these aspects of yourself into conscious awareness. So, are you ready to turn on the light and see what has been hidden? The next step is to learn how to integrate these shadow aspects of ourselves. This isn't about getting rid of the shadow, because that's impossible. It's about bringing compassion and acceptance to the parts of ourselves we have judged as negative, because when you bring light to the darkness, it can be integrated. To befriend the shadow is to understand that these aspects of ourselves are not separate from us. They are just parts of our experience that are crying out for acknowledgement. Practical tools, such as journaling, can help you explore your shadow, because in the journal you can ask questions such as, what am I trying to hide from myself? Or, what parts of me do I judge as bad or unworthy? And then you can begin to bring these aspects of yourself into conscious awareness. Or you can use meditation to observe your thoughts without judgment, noticing when you have a strong reaction to an idea or a feeling, and instead of judging yourself, simply acknowledge that this is a part of yourself that wants to be seen. These practices allow you to move beyond the judgment and into acceptance, and this acceptance is how you begin to integrate these aspects of yourself. This doesn't mean that you have to condone negative behavior. It means that you acknowledge that these behaviors are coming from somewhere and they need to be explored. The key here is compassion, not judgment. When you embrace the shadow, you embrace your wholeness, and it becomes less of an obstacle. So, can you begin to befriend your shadow? This brings us back to the idea of deaths, and how the integration of the shadow is another form of death. The death of the parts of ourselves we have been hiding from, the death of the parts of ourselves that we have judged as bad or unworthy. When you engage in shadow work, you're allowing these aspects of yourself to die, in the sense that you're no longer pushing them away, no longer rejecting them, and no longer allowing them to run in the shadows, but now you are bringing them into the light. Think of a person who has spent a lifetime avoiding conflict, only to realize that they have been suppressing their anger, and they are ready to release it. In this example, they are ready to integrate that anger, not by becoming a rage monster, but by understanding it and allowing it to express itself in a healthy way. And this integration of anger is a form of death of that aspect of themselves that they have been resisting. By doing this, they become more whole, more authentic, and more powerful. And this is why the shadow is so important, because until you integrate these aspects of yourself, you remain bound by them. It's the parts of the false self that we must address, the parts of ourselves that need to die to allow the true self to shine through. So are you ready to let go of your resistance and accept all parts of yourself? And what if you choose not to integrate your shadow? What are the consequences? When you refuse to acknowledge your shadow, you will continue to repeat negative patterns and experiences because the shadow is still running in the background. If you ignore the wound, it will fester. It won't just disappear. It will continue to influence your thoughts, your behaviors, and your relationships, sabotaging your attempts to create a better life. Think of a person who has a deep-seated belief that they are not good enough, and they refuse to acknowledge this belief. This belief will then run in the background, sabotaging every attempt they make to succeed. They will self-sabotage relationships. They will turn down opportunities. They will stay stuck in self-imposed limitations because they refuse to address this belief. The shadow will remain a hidden force, dictating your experience without you even being aware of it, and until it is brought into the light and integrated, you will remain at its mercy. The shadow cannot be gotten rid of, it can only be integrated, and that integration is yet another form of death that allows for new growth and rebirth. So, are you willing to face your shadow, or will you allow it to continue to run your life? Now let's explore another cycle that is always at play in our lives, and that is the cycle of expansion and contraction. Think of your breath. The inhale represents expansion, and the exhale represents contraction. This natural rhythm is mirrored in all aspects of life, and this cycle of expansion and contraction is another way to understand the cycle of death and rebirth. Summer represents expansion, the time of growth, of abundance and activity, while winter represents contraction, the time of rest, of introspection and renewal. This natural rhythm is present in your life also, and in order to live in flow, you must engage with these cycles. There will be periods of life that will feel expansive, where new opportunities are arising and new challenges are calling you forward. And then there will be periods of contraction where it will feel like your energy has dropped, where you feel called to rest and integrate. These cycles are natural and necessary, just like the seasons, and to resist them is to resist the natural rhythm of life. You cannot be expanding all of the time, and you cannot be contracting all of the time. You need both to create balance. So, have you begun to see how these natural cycles are playing out in your own life? The next step is learning to recognize these cycles in your own life and learning how to align with them instead of resisting them. When you are in an expansion phase, you'll likely feel energized, motivated, and inspired to take on new challenges, to seek new experiences, and this is the time to say yes to life. Engage with those opportunities, take the leap, and know that there is support for you in the expansion phase. But when the contraction phase arrives, it's not about pushing yourself. It's about creating space for rest and integration. This is when you need to say no, when you need to focus on self-care, and when you need to retreat. Think of the contraction phase as a period of hibernation, where you are allowing yourself to digest all that you have experienced in the expansion phase. Setting aside a period of self-care, where you nourish your mind, body, and soul, is not a luxury, but a necessity. Perhaps you create a quiet space for yourself, perhaps you take a walk in nature, or perhaps you spend time in quiet reflection. This is how you integrate the experience of the expansion phase. It's about allowing yourself to slow down, to be present, and to listen to your inner guidance. And by aligning with these natural cycles, you begin to move into a place of ease and flow. What parts of your life are calling for expansion? What parts of your life are calling for contraction? Let's revisit the onion metaphor and integrate these ideas, because these cycles of expansion and contraction can also be seen in the layers of the onion. The expansion phase is like adding new layers of awareness to the onion. As you grow, and as you integrate new experiences, new layers of awareness are created. When you learn something new, when you experience a new challenge, when you travel to a new country, it's like adding another layer to your onion. These layers of awareness are integrated during the contraction phase, allowing you to process and understand your life experiences, and to make the knowledge and wisdom a part of you. It's in the quiet spaces of the contraction phase that the new layers of your onion become a part of your core, and this is why both phases are vital for growth. Each layer represents a journey, a cycle of expansion and contraction, and this is a constant cycle, and you are always in the process of expanding and contracting, always in the process of integration and awareness. You are not separate from these cycles, you are an integral part of them. So, can you see how these cycles are constantly shaping you? And so, all of this information is pointing toward the same conclusion. Life is a continuous cycle of death and rebirth, and each phase is a necessary part of the journey. Every ending creates space for new beginnings, every challenge creates space for growth, and every experience leads to greater self-awareness. Think of the water cycle. The water evaporates from the ocean, condenses into clouds, falls as rain, and flows back into the ocean, always transforming, always moving. In the same way, you are constantly transforming, constantly changing, and constantly evolving. Every death is a rebirth, and every contraction is followed by expansion. And when you understand this cycle, you can move through life with more grace and less resistance. You're not a victim of these cycles. You are an active participant. You are the water, you are the cloud, you are the rain, and you are the ocean. And when you fully embody this truth, you step into your personal power. So, are you ready to embrace the natural rhythm of life and move into the flow of these cycles? Now that we have explored the deeper aspects of these cycles, let's bring this all back to the realm of daily life. Because these transitions aren't just limited to the major events we discussed earlier, but are happening in subtle ways all the time. They are mini cycles that are happening constantly. Mindful living is the key to becoming more aware of these subtle deaths, recognizing them as natural shifts in your being. Consider a simple example of your changing taste in food or music. You may have loved a certain dish when you were younger, but now it no longer appeals to you. This is the death of an old preference, making way for something new, and you can choose to consciously engage with these changes. Or think of the clothes that you used to wear that you no longer feel aligned with. This is a shift in your identity, an old version of you that is ready to be shed. And if you chose to engage with that, you create space for a new version of you. By being present, by being mindful, you can choose to consciously engage with these changes, and not simply be carried along by them. This is the path to conscious living, to living in the present moment, and when you are present, you can fully engage with all of the small deaths that are occurring all the time. So, can you choose to live more mindfully? Can you begin to see these subtle shifts as natural and normal? The concept of impermanence is a key to unlocking this understanding and the recognition that everything is constantly changing and nothing stays the same forever. This isn't something to be feared, but something to be embraced. If everything is always changing, then there is no need to cling to anything, to control anything, or to resist anything. The seasons are constantly changing, the plants are always growing and dying, and your body is always transforming, from the moment you were born to the moment you will take your last breath. It's all changing all the time. And when you accept this truth, when you release the need to hold on to the past, when you release the need to control the future, you move into a place of peace and flow, and this is the secret to embracing the cycles of life. When you are no longer trying to control the change, you can fully engage with it, and with every cycle, you move closer to your authentic self. So can you start to accept that all things must pass? This understanding also empowers you to become the conscious author of your own narrative, consciously choosing the chapters you want to write, choosing when to end one chapter and start a new one. You are not a passive passenger in your own life. You are the author, you are the narrator, and you are the main character. When you engage with the cycles, you start to take responsibility for your personal transformation. Think of a person who has been living a life that was dictated to them by their parents. The moment they choose to rewrite their own story is the moment they take back control of their own lives. And in that moment, they can decide what the new chapters will be, what they want to create, and what they want to manifest. These cycles don't happen to you, they happen for you, and you get to choose how you engage with them. So what new chapters will you choose to write? And with this shift in perspective, you can now begin to see that even the seemingly negative deaths, the challenges, the hardships, are all opportunities for growth, for learning, and for evolution. The false self versus the true self comes back into play because you can start to recognize that the old aspects of self have to be shed to allow the true authentic version of self to fully shine. All of these aspects are interconnected. Everything we have explored in this video so far is pointing to the same truth, that you are a being of infinite potential, and that every cycle, every challenge, and every death is moving you closer to that truth. It's the process of shedding the layers of the false self to reveal the beauty and power of the true self. This is the path that you have been walking this entire time, even when you weren't aware of it. So, are you ready to fully embrace your own power? Now that you have a deeper understanding of these cycles, I'm sure you are asking, what does this all mean? And that is where the next section will take us, because understanding these cycles on a personal level is only the first step. We're now going to explore the deeper implications of this understanding and the true nature of reality and consciousness itself. Now that you know how to engage with these cycles of life and death, we will now explore the deeper truths behind it all. Let's just take a moment to recap what we've covered. We've discussed transformation, we've explored the cycles of rebirth, and we've examined how to shed limiting beliefs. We've explored the false self versus the true self, and the onion metaphor that we have used as an analogy for the peeling away of the false self as we move closer to our authentic beings, and we've covered so much more. And this brings us to the question, what does all of this mean about the world around us? What does it mean about the nature of reality? In order to move deeper, we must now explore these questions and see what more can be revealed to us, because there is so much more to uncover. So, what is the real truth about all of this? The next section will reveal that to you. Take some time now to really engage with all that has been shared, and I encourage you to start to practice these tools. The truth is there is so much more to uncover, and now is the time to apply these practices. And in the final section, we will uncover what all of this means. So, as we begin to grasp these cycles on a personal level, let's now consider the possibility that deaths, aren't just limited to our individual experiences, but extend to the very reality we perceive? What if our understanding of the world itself is constantly being dyed and reborn? Think about the idea of a flat Earth, a concept that was once considered to be the absolute truth, an undeniable aspect of reality for the majority of the population. This perception that the Earth was flat wasn't just a random idea, it was the accepted reality, a shared belief that dictated how people navigated their lives. Yet that reality died and was replaced by the idea of a spherical Earth. And in the same way, the geocentric model of the solar system, the idea that the Earth was at the center of the universe, was another perceived reality that has now been dyed to be replaced with a heliocentric model. These examples show us that even the most fundamental aspects of what we perceive to be real can be completely transformed. These are not just historical anecdotes, they are powerful reminders that reality itself is not fixed, but is always changing, always evolving, and always in a state of flux. What other realities have we accepted as truth that may also be ready to die? This brings us to the idea that our reality is nothing more than a construct, shaped by our beliefs, our societal conditioning, and our personal experiences, just like in the Matrix. Think about the different realities that exist across the globe. Every culture has its own unique set of beliefs, its own unique interpretation of the world, and its own unique societal constructs. This alone showcases the idea that our reality is not a concrete, objective truth, but a flexible and malleable perception. It's as if we are each playing our own unique video game, a game where the rules are always shifting and changing, and where the landscape is dictated by our own personal beliefs. And just like a video game, there are different levels that we can experience, and to move through these levels, we must die to the old levels to move into new ones. The placebo effect is also a clear example of how our minds can create a very real experience simply through belief. If a person believes a sugar pill will heal them, they can experience actual physical changes, all created by their perception. Or think about optical illusions. These simple visual tricks demonstrate how our brains can be easily manipulated into seeing things that aren't actually there, showing that what we perceive as real is not always what is real. It's a reminder that the reality we experience is not a fixed objective truth, but a subjective experience shaped by our perceptions. And as our perceptions change, so too does our experience. So if this is the case, then what is the real truth about reality? And this concept is not new because it connects back to the pattern we have been exploring of shedding old identities and limiting beliefs. And now we see that even our perceptions of reality are just another layer of the onion that needs to be peeled back to reveal a deeper truth. In order for us to experience a new level of reality, we must die to the old ways that we have been perceiving the world. We have to let go of the limiting belief systems, the dogmas, and the rigid structures, so that a new level of perception can be revealed. It's as if we have been looking through a dirty window, and as we peel the layers, the window becomes clearer, the images become sharper, and more of the light can shine through. Each death of a belief or a perception takes us closer to the truth, further away from the illusions of the Matrix, and closer to the source of who we really are. It's not about discarding reality, but about seeing reality with a new perspective, a perspective that is not limited by the past, and is not held captive by limiting belief systems. And just like an onion, as we peel each layer, we're getting closer to the core truth of who we are and the reality that we inhabit. So how many more layers of perception do you need to peel? When we begin to integrate these ideas, we start to see that the individual deaths that we experience are not separate from the deaths of our perceived reality. They are all interconnected aspects of a larger shift in consciousness. When one person changes their perception, when they release a limiting belief, they create a ripple effect that has the potential to impact the whole of society. This is the concept of the 100th monkey effect, that when a certain number of individuals reach a certain level of awareness, This awareness then spreads throughout the rest of the collective consciousness, creating a shift in the whole species. It's as if we are all interconnected, and when one person awakens, we all awaken, and in the same way, when one person releases a belief, that belief begins to release from the collective. This is not a random occurrence. It is part of a positive shift that is occurring on the planet, a shift that is bringing more light to the planet as we collectively awaken to who we really are. This interconnectivity highlights the idea that our personal transformations are not just isolated events, but powerful contributions to the evolution of the collective consciousness. So, how do you choose to show up in this shift? Now, let's dive deeper and consider that consciousness is actually the driving force behind reality and our personal transformations. The changes that we experience are not just random, chaotic events. They are purposeful, and they are being driven by the very essence of consciousness itself. Because consciousness is not just something that we possess, it is the fundamental fabric of reality. It is the source that creates our experience. When we explore the observer effect in quantum physics, we can begin to understand how our consciousness plays a role in creating the reality we experience. The very act of observation changes the behavior of the particles being observed. This highlights the idea that reality is not a fixed, objective truth, but is actively shaped by our awareness, by our intention, and by our consciousness. Imagine you are dreaming, and everything that is present in the dream is a product of your own mind, your own consciousness, and as the dreamer you can shape the reality of that dream. The same is true for our waking life. We are all dreamers, creating our own realities, and as our consciousness expands, our perception of the dream also changes. So, can you see how consciousness is the key to shaping your reality? And what if this idea of death and rebirth is not just limited to our personal experience or the perception of reality, but is actually a universal pattern that plays out on a cosmic scale? What if the universe itself goes through cycles of destruction and recreation, cycles of death and rebirth? Consider the Big Bang, often described as the beginning of our universe, but it can also be considered the rebirth of the universe from a previous state. And in the same way, black holes can be seen as a death of matter, yet also a potential portal to new realities. These are not just abstract theories. They are powerful reminders that the cycles we experience in our personal lives are mirrored on a grander cosmic scale. This idea of universal cycles is not new. It has been talked about in countless ancient traditions, and these are all pointing to the same universal truth. Everything that exists goes through cycles of creation, preservation, and destruction. These cycles are not something to be feared. They are a natural and necessary part of the universe. And in the same way, the cycles you experience are a natural and necessary part of your journey. So how does this universal truth relate to our personal journeys? As we begin to connect these cosmic patterns with our own personal experiences, we can start to see that our individual journeys are actually contributing to the overall expansion of consciousness. We are not just separate beings. We are all part of the same universal consciousness, and each choice we make, each transformation we undergo, creates a ripple effect that impacts the entire collective. When a wave forms on the surface of the ocean, it is not separate from the ocean. It is still the ocean experiencing itself in a different way. And in the same way, we are all the same source consciousness, experiencing itself in individual forms. When you consciously engage with your personal transformation, you are not just changing your own life. You are also creating a positive impact on the collective, and you are helping to create a better future for all of humanity. Your individual struggles, your individual triumphs, are not isolated incidents. They are integral parts of a larger universal story, and that by consciously choosing to engage with this story, you become a more powerful co-creator. So, what future do you choose to create? By now, you should have begun to recognize that the core pattern of death and rebirth is not just a random occurrence. It is a pattern that exists on all levels, from the smallest personal transformation to the grandest cosmic cycles. It's a universal law that is always in operation, whether you are conscious of it or not. And this understanding empowers you to consciously engage with the process, knowing that you are not a victim of these cycles, but an active participant in them. The idea of shedding the false self to move closer to the true self is not just a personal goal, it's a universal journey. It's the pathway that we are all on as we move from the illusions of the matrix towards the truth of who we really are. And this journey of returning to the true self is not a straight line. It's a constant process of shedding and of releasing so that we can continue to reveal our infinite potential. Now that you are aware of this universal law, how do you choose to work with it? And now, with this understanding, we move into the idea that you are not just a passive recipient of life, but an active co-creator of reality. You have the power to create your experience, to create your life, and to create a new world. You are not a victim to the circumstances around you. You are a powerful being that can consciously shape your life. This concept of conscious co-creation is not just a nice idea. It's a fundamental truth that is waiting to be embodied, and it's a truth that is empowered by your choices. When you use the power of your imagination to create a specific outcome, you are not just wishing, you are consciously participating in the creation process. And in the same way, when you focus your intention on a certain vision, you are actively attracting that vision into your life. So, in this moment, ask yourself, what are you creating right now? This also means that you have the ability to create intentional deaths, to consciously choose what you want to release and what you want to bring into your life. You don't have to wait for change to happen to you. You can be the one who initiates that change. You can be the one who ends the cycles that no longer serve you, and this is done by actively letting go of what is holding you back. This is the active process of transformation. When you choose to shed an old job, a toxic relationship, or a limiting belief, you are taking control of your life and actively moving yourself closer to your true potential. You're no longer waiting for things to happen. You are the one making things happen. You are the one in the driver's seat. This conscious engagement is a key to personal power, and as you consciously engage with the process of shedding, you are aligning yourself with the power of your true being. So, what will you choose to intentionally die to? This power is also your ability to change your perception, because your perception is your power. And by recognizing that your beliefs are not fixed, by recognizing that your thoughts are not the truth, you can choose to change those beliefs and thoughts, therefore changing your experience. The observer effect reminds us that we change our experiences simply by observing them. And in the same way, when you change your perspective on an event, you change your experience of that event. Imagine two people looking at the same situation. One may see a problem, while the other may see an opportunity, and this difference in perspective will dramatically change their experience. When you realize that you have the power to change your perspective, you reclaim your power to create your life. This is a key to unlocking your potential. So, what perspective will you choose to have? This journey of self-discovery is a personal journey, and it's also a universal journey, because as you engage in this transformation, you are also consciously co-creating a more loving and awakened world for all. The understanding that we are all interconnected highlights the fact that your personal growth contributes to the collective well-being of the entire planet. And as you change, you inspire change in others, and that change ripples out throughout the whole world. It's like dropping a stone in a pond. A small action can create a large wave, and as we consciously engage with our own growth, we create a more beautiful future for everyone. This journey is not just about you. It's about all of us, because we are all on this journey together. So, how will you inspire the world? Now, I know that this information might challenge some of the long-held beliefs that you have, and it's natural to have doubts and to question what we are discussing, and some of you may even be thinking, if reality is a construct, does anything matter? Or, if I am not my ego, then who am I? These are all valid and important questions, And I want to acknowledge that these doubts are normal, that they are a part of the process of expanding your awareness, and the purpose is not to be fearful, but to explore these ideas with an open mind and a curious heart. These questions are natural and normal, but in order to move past them, we must reiterate the core principles that we have been discussing throughout this video. So, are these doubts showing up for you? And if so, can you be open to exploring them further? The core message of all of this is about empowerment and personal responsibility. It's about understanding that these cycles are not something to escape from, but to actively engage with. And as you engage more consciously, you move into the place of personal power. You are not just waiting for life to happen to you. You are the one who is making life happen. You are the one who has the ability to influence every single aspect of your experience. This is not about disengaging from the world. This is about engaging with the world more consciously, more intentionally, and with more understanding of how it all works. And think of the metaphor of the river. You can choose to go with the flow of the river, you can choose to embrace the journey, or you can choose to resist the river, and the choice is always yours. Which path do you choose to take? And it's important to reinforce the fact that the idea that we are all separate is an illusion. All of these shifts in perception, all of these deaths, are taking you closer to seeing the truth, that we are all interconnected, that we are all part of the same consciousness. The individual transformation leads to a universal transformation, because when you change, you create a ripple effect throughout the whole of humanity. Think of a raindrop that thinks it's separate from the ocean, but once it falls into the ocean, it becomes part of the ocean again. It realizes that it never was separate in the first place. And in the same way, you too are part of this universal consciousness. You have never been separate, and you will never be separate. And as you continue on this journey, you will move closer to understanding this truth. So, can you begin to feel your interconnectedness? And with all of this said, I want to bring you into a place of peace, a place of understanding, and I want to reassure you that this journey is not about escaping your life. It's about stepping into it more fully. It's not about becoming detached, but about becoming more engaged. Because you are magnificent, you are powerful, and you are worthy. The point of all of this is to move you closer to your own personal power, to move you closer to your own truth. And the more you understand the cycles of life, the more you can engage with the beauty of existence. And when you know that you are not separate from the world, you will begin to fall in love with life, and you will see the beauty in all of the cycles that you experience, even the ones that seem hard. So, are you ready to step into your power and engage with this magnificent life? And now, as we approach the end of this video, I want to tease that in the final section, I will reveal to you the ultimate truth about ourselves, about consciousness, and about the nature of reality, and how all of these concepts tie in together. This next part is the culmination of all that we have been discussing, so stay tuned. In the final section, we will uncover who you truly are and how you can reclaim your own power. We've discussed the cyclical nature of existence, the power of your consciousness, and your role in creating reality. We have also explored the idea that deaths lead to rebirths, and that this is an ongoing process. We've also looked at how your perceptions are not fixed, they can be changed, and we've looked at how you can choose to actively engage with the co-creation of a better world. So, now that you understand all of this, what does this all mean? What is the so what of this information? In the next and final section, all will be revealed, and the pieces of the puzzle will be brought together to reveal a deeper truth. So I invite you to join me, and let us together move into the final act of this magnificent show, as we uncover the truth of who we really are, and what it is we are really doing here. So, as we continue to explore these layers of reality, let's now turn our attention to the idea of the infinite self. Because if reality is a construct, if our perceptions are malleable, and if death is not an ending, but a transition, then what does this mean for our identity? The individual deaths that we have been discussing are not just about ending certain aspects of our lives. They are doorways to understanding our infinite nature, and it is through the shedding of old beliefs, the release of past trauma, and the letting go of our limited identities that we begin to move closer to the truth of who we are. And this truth extends far beyond the character we play in this human experience. It's as if we are all actors on a stage, playing a specific role, yet we are not the role. We are the consciousness that is playing that role. And when we release our attachments to the roles, we start to see that our true nature is infinite, limitless, and without boundaries. Just as an actor steps off the stage and is no longer the character, so too can we detach from the limited identity to reveal our greater potential. So, if you are not the role you play, then who are you? And this understanding also highlights the idea that we are all interconnected. We are all part of a collective consciousness, where our individual experiences are actually contributing to the growth of the whole, and that the cycles we experience are not just for our personal growth, but also for the growth of the entire collective. It's as if we are individual cells within a much larger body, and each cell has its own unique function, yet all the cells are working together to support the health of the whole body. In the same way, our individual transformations contribute to the well-being of humanity. So when you consciously choose to embrace these cycles of death and rebirth, you are also contributing to the well-being of the collective, and this interconnectedness is a powerful force for change. Your personal journey is not just for you. It is also for the benefit of the whole, and this means that you are far more important than you realize. Are you beginning to understand the significance of your journey? This continuous cycle of death and rebirth is not random. It's a designed process that has the potential to take us to higher levels of awareness, as each shedding of the old makes space for the new. The onion metaphor that we have been exploring represents this perfectly. With each layer that we peel back, we move closer to the core of who we really are, and this core is the source of our infinite potential. Each death of an identity, a belief, or a perception is not an ending, but a step further on our journey of awakening. And just like a radio signal that gets clearer as you move closer to the source, so too does our awareness sharpen as we move closer to the source of consciousness. These cycles are designed to take us to our highest potential. They are pushing us towards expansion, toward more light, and ultimately towards the truth of our being. Are you ready to step fully into this awareness? And if we truly understand this interconnectedness, we can then see how our personal transformation is not just about us as individuals, it's about creating a better future for all of humanity. And when we understand that we are all part of the same whole, that we are all connected, we begin to act with more compassion, with more kindness, and with more intention. It's as if we are all walking each other home, and our personal journey is helping others to awaken as well. Because as we expand our own consciousness, we create a ripple effect that has the potential to awaken others too. So the stakes are high, as your personal growth becomes a powerful force for the transformation of the world, and your journey becomes an essential part of the journey of the whole. What will you do with this power? Now, let's explore the power of the observer, because if we have established that our individual identities are not the whole of who we are, and that we are part of a greater collective consciousness, then what is the force that is guiding this experience? What is the nature of the consciousness that is beyond our individual selves? The observer is the part of us that is outside of our thoughts, our emotions, and our identities. It's the pure awareness that is witnessing the show of our lives, and this is where our power lies. Just like the examples of optical illusions, when we shift our perspective, we completely change our experience. And in the same way, when we choose to see our lives from the perspective of the observer, we begin to realize that we are not victims of our circumstances. We are the creators of our experience. The observer is not just a witness, it's the power that shapes our reality, and by consciously stepping into this role, we begin to see that we have the ability to choose our experience. Are you ready to step into the role of the observer? And this power of the observer also gives us the ability to transcend the matrix of limiting beliefs and the societal conditioning that has been keeping us trapped. Because the observer is the aspect of self that can see beyond the illusion. It's the one that is not fooled by the distractions and the narratives that keep us in the dream. As we shed the layers of the onion, we move closer to this observer and further away from the illusion of the matrix, and each death of an old identity is a step toward freedom. It's as if we are slowly waking up from a dream, and when we begin to see that the dream is just a story, we also start to understand that we have the power to change the story. And when we take the role of the observer, the one who is watching the dream, not caught in the dream, we begin to step into greater freedom. Can you feel yourself waking up? This brings us to the idea that each death is an opportunity to move closer to the true self. Because the observer is the true self, that is beyond the identities, beyond the beliefs, and beyond the perceptions. It's as if we are all actors who have become identified with the roles that we play, but the true self exists outside of these roles, and the observer is the one that is watching the actors on the stage. When we step into this role of the observer, we begin to understand that we are not our thoughts, we are not our feelings, and we are not our identities, but we are the pure awareness that is watching all of these things. You are the one who is hearing the thoughts, you are the one who is feeling the emotions, and you are the one who is witnessing your own life, and it is from this space of awareness that you will begin to see the truth of who you really are. What is it you are observing right now? So, if we connect all of these concepts, then we can see that the observer is the true self that is outside of the matrix. It's the aspect of you that is connected to the source, and this is a space that we are all capable of stepping into. The deaths that we experience are opportunities to consciously step out of the illusion into the observer space and to see our lives from a new perspective, a perspective that is not limited by the ego, and that sees beyond the constructs of our minds and our personal identities. It's a journey of constant discovery and constant revelation. It's a journey of returning to the observer that you already are, and each moment is an opportunity to deepen that connection. Are you ready to consciously step into the role of the observer? Now, let's explore the illusion of control. Because as we have been exploring the idea that we are powerful co-creators of our own reality, it is important to understand that there are forces beyond our control, and it is in the surrender to those forces that we find true freedom. The cycles of death and rebirth are not things that we can control, and the more we try to cling to the illusion of control, the more we create suffering for ourselves. The key is to learn how to flow with the cycles, to surrender to the natural unfolding of life, and when we stop resisting change, we create space for more grace and more ease to enter our lives. It's like a river, where you can either choose to swim against the current, which will tire you out, or you can choose to go with the flow and allow the current to guide you. Can you feel the resistance in your own life, and are you willing to surrender to the flow? This surrender also implies trusting in the process, because even when things feel chaotic or challenging, there is a higher intelligence at work, and the cycles we experience are all designed for our growth. This doesn't mean we become passive. It means that we stop trying to force an outcome, and instead we align ourselves with the wisdom of the universe. The concepts of expansion and contraction that we have explored are natural rhythms of life, and when we fight those rhythms, we create more resistance, more suffering, and more pain. But when we surrender to them, we move with greater ease. It's like the breath, which is a natural rhythm, and we can choose to try and control it, or we can choose to surrender to it and allow it to flow naturally. Can you trust that the rhythm of your life is guiding you? This understanding challenges the idea that life is a straight line, that there is a fixed destination that we must reach. And by letting go of the need to control this process, we become more open to unexpected opportunities, and we can see that life is not about a linear progression, but a spiral journey where we are constantly circling back, but at higher levels of consciousness. The experiences that we have are not random. They are part of a deeper intelligence that is guiding us on our path. And even the seeming failures and the perceived deaths are all part of this divine plan. It's as if a person planned their whole life out, but then that plan was destroyed, and something far greater emerged. A more beautiful and more meaningful life was created as a result of letting go. Can you begin to see how surrendering can lead to greater things? This shift in perspective also allows us to see that surrender doesn't mean giving up or becoming passive. It actually means choosing to actively align ourselves with the flow of life. And when we surrender our need to control, we paradoxically gain more control over our own lives. It's about releasing the need to know everything, and instead trusting that the universe knows what it is doing, and that we can align ourselves with this greater wisdom. It's as if by releasing the oars, we allow the current to take us where we are supposed to go, and that by letting go, we are not giving away our power, we are stepping into our true power. Are you willing to release your need to control and instead trust the flow? Now, as we move closer to the final section, let's delve into the concept of non-duality, because in order to fully understand the process of death and rebirth, we must recognize that these are not separate concepts, but two sides of the same coin. Death and life are both necessary parts of the whole, and they are two expressions of the same consciousness. It's just like the breath, the inhale and the exhale, that are both necessary parts of the same breath, and they work in harmony with one another. And in the same way, death and life are in a continuous dance, and both are part of a greater process. Just like the yin-yang symbol that shows how seemingly opposite forces are actually interconnected and work together to create balance, so too are life and death essential components of existence. Are you able to see the harmony between these seeming opposites? And this understanding also connects back to the idea of the observer, because the observer is the aspect of us that is outside of duality, and it is the space where the opposites dissolve, and it's the place that is connected to the whole, where we are not separate from anything. When we step into this observer space, we move beyond the concepts of death and life, and we move into a space of oneness. And it is in this place of oneness that we begin to understand that there is no separation, there is no good or bad, there is simply the expression of consciousness. It's like a painter who is separate from the painting, yet both are part of the same act of creation, and so too are we part of the same cosmic dance, and that from the observer space we see that it is all one. Can you feel that sense of unity? This understanding also highlights the fact that the separation that we perceive is an illusion, and that our individual experiences are actually all part of one unified consciousness, and every death that we experience is a reminder of this interconnectedness, because it takes us closer to the truth of who we are, as it dissolves the illusion of separation. It's as if we are all waves on the ocean, where the waves think they are separate, but they are all part of the same ocean. And in the same way, we are all part of the same universal consciousness, and our experience of separation is a temporary illusion. And this recognition of our interconnectedness is an essential step in our awakening. It's the dissolving of the barriers, the dissolving of the illusion, so that we may see the truth. Are you ready to see beyond the illusion of separation? As we bring all of these concepts together, we start to see a beautiful tapestry that weaves together the cycles of death and rebirth, the power of consciousness, the observer, and the nature of reality itself. And we come to understand that they are not separate concepts, but are all interconnected, and they are all aspects of one single truth. The cycles of existence are not random occurrences. They are a continuous unfolding, a never-ending journey of expansion and growth. And when we engage with this cycle consciously, we become powerful co-creators of our own destiny. And in this journey of transformation, it's not about the end result, it is the journey itself that is important. And when we focus on the journey, we begin to enjoy the ride. Can you feel the importance of the journey? And now, as we move into the final part of this journey, I want to tease that in the next section, you will discover the ultimate truth about who we are, what reality is, and what our purpose is, and you will begin to see how all of the concepts we have been discussing connect to reveal the true essence of our existence. This final revelation will tie everything together and bring you to a place of deep knowing and profound understanding, a place where all the pieces of the puzzle fit perfectly together. And remember, you are not just an individual, you are an essential part of the whole, and your journey is a powerful contribution to the evolution of the collective. Are you excited to discover the ultimate truth? And I want to emphasize again that you have the power of choice, and you have the ability to actively participate in creating your own reality. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are a powerful co-creator that has the power to change anything and everything that you choose. You hold the power to influence every single aspect of your experience. You are not at the mercy of life, but you are the one that is shaping life. And this is a power that has always been yours. It is simply a matter of reclaiming it. And as you choose to engage more consciously, you move into a place of greater personal responsibility, and you understand that you are the source of your own experience. What will you choose to create? So, let's shift our perspective from thinking of this as a theory to knowing that this is a practical understanding that can be used to transform our lives and the world around us. Understanding the cycles of death and rebirth, the power of the observer, and the illusion of control is not just some abstract intellectual exercise. It's the key to living a more conscious and more fulfilling life, and to creating a more peaceful and awakened planet. It's about embodying the wisdom that we have been discussing and applying it to our lives, and when we do this, we become active agents of transformation. We are not just learning a theory, we are learning a way of being. We are learning to live in a more conscious way that will lead to greater awareness for all of humanity. Are you willing to take this wisdom and apply it to your life? Now, as we move into the final act of this performance, I invite you to continue your journey of self-discovery and to embrace the path of transformation that we have been discussing throughout this video, and to step fully into your power, your magnificence, and your truth. The next part is not just another section of the video, it is the culmination of everything. It is the moment where the truth will be fully revealed, and when all the pieces will finally fit together. So, get ready, because it is time to step into the final section and discover the ultimate truth of who you are and why you are here. So, let's begin to explore the profound nature of the multiple deaths that you have already experienced, because the truth is, your life has not been a single, linear journey. It has been a series of transformative passages, and each one has shaped you into the person you are today. When we shift our perspective to see these moments as pivotal changes, not as failures or random events, we begin to see the underlying pattern of growth, and that even those experiences that felt challenging were essential for the unfolding of our journey. Have you ever considered that the person you are today would not exist without every single one of the previous experiences and the deaths that you experienced before? It's as if you are an artist and your life is your masterpiece, with each experience adding layers of depth and complexity. Consider all the times that your life has changed, like a move to a new city, a career transition, the ending of a significant relationship, or even a shift in your spiritual beliefs. These moments are not just events in your life, they are actually deaths of previous versions of yourself, and with each death, there is an opportunity for a rebirth, for a new perspective, a new direction, and for a new version of yourself to emerge. Each time you end one chapter of your life, you open the space for a brand new chapter to begin, and it is through this constant cycle of shedding the old that the new is allowed to emerge, and that each ending is actually a beginning in disguise. It's like a snake shedding its skin in order to grow into something new, and this is the cycle of transformation that you are continually moving through. Can you reflect on all the ways you have died and been reborn? And although these deaths may have been challenging, or at times even painful, they were actually catalysts for growth. They were the fire that refined you. They were the forces that pushed you beyond your comfort zone. And even in the difficult experiences, there was a hidden gift. The end of a difficult relationship may have opened you up to more authentic love. A job loss may have led you to a more fulfilling career path, and a spiritual crisis may have connected you to a deeper understanding of yourself, and that it is often in the moments of perceived loss that we gain the most. It is through the challenges that we become stronger, through the failures we become wiser, and through the deaths that we become more fully ourselves. Have you considered how your greatest challenges have led to your greatest growth? Now, let's reinforce this understanding of the cycle of death and rebirth. Because just as the seasons change, with winter always leading to spring, so too do our lives experience these continuous cycles of endings and beginnings, and each cycle is part of the same natural rhythm. The death of winter is a necessary part of the cycle for the rebirth of spring. And in the same way, the deaths that you experience in your life are necessary for the emergence of new phases and new aspects of yourself. Like a seed that must die in order to grow into a plant, our deaths are the prerequisites for our rebirths. And when we see this pattern playing out in our lives, we begin to understand that these cycles are not something to be feared, but rather embraced as a natural part of our journey. Are you beginning to see this cycle playing out in your life? Now let's shift your perspective and emphasize that these deaths are not endings, but transitions. They are not about being attached to the old. They are about creating space for the new. When we release the idea of victimhood, or the idea that we are simply being acted upon, we begin to see the deeper purpose behind these transitions, and that they are all part of the unfolding of our lives. It's like a river that is constantly flowing, where we cannot hold on to any one moment, because everything is constantly changing. And in the same way, our lives are in a constant state of flux, and it is through our willingness to let go that we create space for greater things. Can you feel yourself beginning to let go of the old to create space for the new? Now, let's dive deeper into the power that you have to consciously navigate these transitions, because it is time to reclaim your power by being the active creator of your own experience and not just the passive recipient. By consciously choosing what to let go of, you are creating space for new opportunities to emerge, and that your life is not something that happens to you, but something that you actively create. And when you are aware of the cycles of death and rebirth, you are no longer a victim of your experience. You become the conscious co-creator. It's as if you are the architect of your own life, and you have the power to design it exactly how you want it to be. Are you ready to step into your power and become the conscious co-creator of your life? And this idea also connects to the power of your intention, because when you consciously choose what to leave behind, you are creating space for new opportunities to unfold, and every decision you make becomes a powerful act of creation. When you become aware that your intentions are creating your reality, you also become more mindful of what you choose to focus on, what you choose to believe, and what you choose to create. Just like a sculptor that starts with a block of stone, but intentionally shapes the stone into their vision, so too can you intentionally shape the experience of your life by choosing the thoughts, the beliefs, and the actions that you consciously take. What are you choosing to create with your intentions? This is where awareness comes in, because the more aware you become of yourself, the more capable you become at recognizing when a death is happening or is about to happen. And this is similar to a check engine light in your car that is designed to notify you that there is an issue that requires your attention. This awareness can help you address an issue before it creates a bigger problem, and that each subtle shift, each inner nudge, and each sign is a signal for you to pay attention so that you can make more conscious decisions. It's as if you have an internal guidance system that is always giving you the information that you need. It's just up to you to pay attention. Are you listening to your inner guidance system? And now, let's bring in the practical tools that you can use to actively engage with these deaths. Because this is not just about having a concept, but about having the tools to consciously use in your daily life. Tools such as meditation, journaling, and visualization can all be used to engage with your transformations, and it's by actively choosing to engage with them that we move with grace and intention. Through meditation, you can connect with your inner observer and see your life from a more detached perspective. Through journaling, you can explore your feelings and your beliefs. And through visualization, you can create a new vision for your life. And you can use all of these tools together or individually to support you in your journey. What tools are you feeling drawn to explore? When we use these tools, we also begin to understand that we are not just navigating transitions, we are shedding layers of the false self, and that every layer we peel back brings us closer to our true self. Each session of meditation, each journal entry, and each visualization exercise are all conscious acts that are assisting you on the journey of shedding the old and embracing the new. When we take an onion and we peel back the layers, we finally get to the core. And in the same way, when we are actively engaging with the layers of our beliefs and identities, we begin to move closer to the core of our true self. The more you engage with these tools, the more you begin to discover who you really are. Can you feel yourself moving closer to your true self? And as we explore the cycles of death and rebirth, it becomes clear that we are not limited to just one life, because each time we experience a death, it is like stepping into a completely new life, with new perspectives, new opportunities, and new realities. It is as if we are an actor who is playing multiple roles in different shows, and with each role we get to experience a new way of being and a new way of seeing the world, but we are always the same actor playing each different role. You have already lived multiple lives, not in some far-off past, but within this single experience, and you are the same actor who has played each of those roles. Are you seeing yourself as more than just one lifetime? This leads us to our understanding of time, as the idea of these multiple lives really challenges our understanding of linear time, because our past lives or previous versions of ourselves are not actually gone. They are simply part of a continuous spiral, where the past informs the present and the present informs the future. Our lives are not just a straight line that goes from birth to death. They are a spiral journey where we continuously circle back, but at higher levels of awareness. And this means that each experience that you have ever had is always with you and has the potential to inform your present moment. Can you feel your past lives still within you? And just as we recognize that each life is interconnected, we begin to understand that even though the experiences may be different, they are all part of the same journey and the same infinite soul, and that each new life is not separate from the previous ones, but it is all part of the same unified experience and the same continuous expression of consciousness. It's like a tree, with each branch being a new life experience, but they are all part of the same tree and all part of the same unified whole, and that our individual experiences are actually all part of one grand cosmic journey. Are you beginning to feel your interconnectedness with all that is? And so, if you have already lived multiple lives, what kind of life will you choose to create now? If every death you experience is a new beginning, what new worlds will you choose to explore? These questions are not designed to be answered intellectually. They are designed to open the doors of your curiosity, and they are designed to shift you into a space of conscious creation, because you have an opportunity now to actively participate in the design of your own reality. What new realities are you feeling drawn to explore now that you understand the true depth of your power? But what happens when we resist this constant cycle of transformation? What happens when we cling to old identities, old beliefs, and old ways of being? When we resist the call to change, we create suffering for ourselves, and we create a sense of stagnation, where we become like a plant that is restricted from growing because we refuse to allow ourselves to die and embrace the new. It's as if we are living in a tiny part that is limiting our growth, and we need to move into a bigger part to allow ourselves the space to expand. When we resist change, we also resist our own potential. Can you feel where you may be resisting the natural flow of your life? By avoiding the necessary deaths, we also create a cycle of repetition where we continue to attract the same kinds of experiences, relationships, and situations, and we continue to live the same patterns because we have not learned the lessons that we need to learn. It's like a record that is stuck on repeat, and we will continue to experience the same song over and over until we choose to change the record. Have you been experiencing similar patterns in your life? It may be a sign that there is a death you are resisting. And when we resist change, we also miss the opportunity to step into our full potential and to fulfill our purpose, because each time we cling to an old version of ourselves, we are also denying the emergence of something even greater. It is as if we are holding on to an old coat that is no longer serving us, instead of stepping into the more elegant and more comfortable clothes that are waiting for us. And we all have a unique purpose, and when we resist the cycles of death and rebirth, we are also denying that purpose the opportunity to fully manifest itself, and that the very cycles that we are resisting are the very things that are designed to take us there. Are you ready to embrace your potential and release the resistance? So, what are you missing out on by remaining stuck in the past? And what kind of life are you creating by not engaging with the changes that you are being called to make? These are not questions that are meant to create fear. They are questions designed to help you take responsibility for your experience, and they are a call to embrace the transformation that is always inviting you to step into greater awareness and greater freedom. So, are you ready to move forward, to embrace the changes, and to fully participate in the beautiful cycles of your existence? Now, as we prepare for the final section, please know that this is not just a theory we are exploring, but a powerful key for personal transformation and for a deeper understanding of reality. And it is not just an intellectual exercise, it is a pathway to stepping into your full potential. These cycles are not something to be feared, they are a fundamental part of existence that you are always navigating, and the more you understand them, the more you will be able to navigate them with grace and with conscious intention. What you have learned in this section is about to become even more clear. And so, let's quickly recap the main points of this section, by acknowledging that we have been exploring your experiences of multiple deaths and rebirths throughout your life, and that each one of them has shaped you into who you are today. We have explored the power of conscious intention and how you can actively choose to create your own reality, using tools such as meditation, visualization, and journaling, and we have been shifting perspectives to see life as a series of new beginnings, a continuous spiral of growth, instead of just a linear journey, and that each previous version of you is still a part of you. Are you ready to integrate these ideas even further? So now, as we move into the final section, you're about to discover the ultimate truth of who you really are and the nature of reality itself, and you will see how all of these concepts that we have been discussing all tie together to reveal the deepest mystery and to reveal the full potential of your experience. I invite you to take what you have learned in this section and join me in the final section, where you will step fully into your truth. This is the moment that we have been working towards, so please join me there. And so, we arrive at the ultimate revelation, that you are an infinite being undergoing a constant cycle of transformation, and that the deaths you have experienced are not endings, but rather profound opportunities to move closer to your true nature. The observer, the nonlinear nature of time, all these connect to these cycles of death and rebirth. And when we bring together all the concepts that we have discussed, we can finally see that death is not the end of the story, but rather the beginning of a new chapter, a new experience, and a move closer to your infinite potential. Consider for a moment that the question that we began with was not a theory but a truth about the nature of reality, and that yes, you have already died many times, and each time you were reborn. This realization is not about instilling fear, but about filling you with awe at the vastness of your potential and the endless possibilities of your experience. Can you feel the depth of this truth resonating within you? Now, let's complete the pattern of the onion and reveal the full meaning of this powerful metaphor, because with every layer that you peel away, you are revealing an even deeper layer of awareness, and even the core of the onion is not fixed, but is constantly changing and transforming. Each death that you experience is like stripping away the old, allowing the new to emerge, and it is through this continuous process of letting go that we move closer to understanding our true nature. Remember, this onion is always growing, it's always changing, and it's always transforming, just like you, and every layer that you peel away takes you deeper into who you really are. What layer are you feeling drawn to peel away right now? And now, let's fully integrate the concept of the true self with the idea of the observer, because the observer is the aspect of you that is beyond all the limited identities. It is the part of you that is unchanging and aware, and the true self is the part of you that can consciously create the reality that you experience. When you are shifting to the observer state, you are also stepping fully into the role of the true self, and you are no longer bound by the limitations of the false self and the matrix that it has created. Consider that the observer is not just a theory, but it is a practical tool and a potent way for you to create conscious change in your experience. How will you utilize the power of the observer today? And finally, let's transform your perspective on death by no longer seeing it as something to be feared, but as a transition and a movement from the false to the true, and a move towards your infinite nature. This process of death is not an ending, it is a beginning. It is a shedding of the old so that the new can take its place. And just as a snake sheds its skin to grow, so too do you shed the old aspects of yourself to transform. And now, when you consider it, death is not the opposite of life, but a doorway to a new beginning and a new experience. Are you now ready to embrace death as you would embrace a new adventure? Let's expand this understanding by acknowledging that your individual transformations have implications for the entire collective consciousness, and that every personal death and rebirth contributes to the overall shift in awareness. Remember that every small change you make creates a ripple effect that impacts the lives of others, and that you are not just an individual, you are also a part of the whole. What this means is that every personal transformation is also a universal transformation, as everything is truly interconnected. How does this understanding change your approach to self-development? And now, let's clarify the deeper meaning of the cycles of death and rebirth, as this is not just a personal experience, it is a universal law of evolution that is present in every aspect of reality. These cycles reflect the unfolding of consciousness itself, from the smallest changes in your own life to the largest cosmic shifts. And if you observe the seasons, the life cycles of plants, the rising and setting of the sun, you will see that these cycles are a natural and essential part of existence. You are a part of these larger cycles, and that you are also in constant evolution and change. What will you notice about the cycles of change in the world around you today? Now, let's explore the powerful implication of this understanding, because as you consciously engage with these cycles, you step into the role of a co-creator in the creation of a more loving and awakened reality. You are not just a passive observer, you are an active and conscious participant in the unfolding of your own life, and in the unfolding of the world around you, and you have the power of conscious intention and the responsibility to use your awareness to create a more peaceful and harmonious world. What do you intend to create in the world around you today? And finally, remember that transformation is not something that simply happens to you. It is something that you are actively participating in, and as you understand how these cycles work, you can consciously choose your future. These transitions do not need to be scary, painful, or confusing. They can be empowering, and you can consciously participate in the creation of your own experience and not be a victim of circumstance. Consider those who have embraced change and how they have created a more fulfilling life as a result, and that you too can consciously create the life you desire. What will you consciously choose to create in your life now? Now, let's complete the thread of releasing the need for control by remembering that it is by surrendering to the cycles of life that you move through transitions with more ease and more grace, and that by resisting change, you create suffering for yourself, while by flowing with the cycles you can live a more joyful experience. It is like a river that flows with the path of least resistance, and in the same way, you too are designed to flow with the changes in your life. Where are you resisting the changes in your life, and how can you surrender more fully? And let's fulfill the pattern of the false self versus the true self, by emphasizing that all the transformations that you experience are designed to reveal your true nature, and every death is a shedding of the false identities so that you can make space for the truth. You are not just your roles, your jobs, your beliefs, or your identities, but you are the infinite observer beyond all of that, and it is through the shedding of the false that your true brilliance is revealed. Think of a diamond that must be cut and polished to reveal its true brilliance, and that each death is a part of that polishing process. What aspects of your false self are you ready to shed? Now, let's directly resolve the initial question and acknowledge that yes, you have already died multiple times, and each death has allowed you to grow and transform, and that you are always dying and always being reborn. By reframing death as a necessary transition, you can release the fear that surrounds it and finally recognize that it is essential for your growth. You are not just experiencing one life, but a constant flow of transitions, with each one offering you new opportunities to learn and to experience something new. Can you feel the fear of death dissolving as you move through these ideas? And with all of this, we can now release any remaining tension by reassuring you that by understanding these cycles you are no longer a victim, but rather you are empowered to co-create your own reality, and that you can use all of the tools and practices that we have covered to navigate these transitions with consciousness and intention. You are not powerless. You have a beautiful gift of consciousness, and with that you can create a life that you love, full of meaning and full of purpose. What will you create with your newfound knowledge and power? And so, let's open up new territory by posing a few questions that will encourage you to look beyond your current understanding. What is beyond this reality? What is beyond consciousness? What is beyond time? If this is all a dream, then who is the dreamer? And if death is not the end, then what lies beyond? These questions are an invitation to dive even deeper into the mysteries of life, and a recognition that there is always something new to discover. What new questions are you feeling inspired to ask? And now, let's contemplate the infinite possibilities that lie ahead, both for your personal growth and for collective evolution. Because you are capable of creating new realities, you are constantly changing and growing, and the journey of self-discovery is a never-ending one. And just like a child who is always curious and always exploring, you can bring that same sense of wonder into every moment of your life and into your experience, and with it comes new possibilities. What are you excited to explore next on your journey? And now, let's explore the practical application of these concepts and what tangible actions you can take to continue this exploration and this work by making meditation, journaling, and spiritual practices a daily part of your life. Remember that these are all tools to help you on your continuing journey, and as you use them with intention, you will find new aspects of your own wisdom. What practices are you ready to commit to today? And so, as your journey continues, please remember that this video is not the end of your learning. It is merely the beginning, and it is an invitation to continue exploring all the topics that we have covered, and to dive deeper into the mysteries of the observer, non-duality, and the wisdom of the ancient texts. I encourage you to continue to explore these ideas and share this video with others who may also benefit from this wisdom. And finally, please subscribe to the channel to continue to receive more of this content. Thank you for joining me on this journey.